When is the right time to sell a stock? How do you protect against inflation? Financial decisions can be tricky, and often your own cognitive and emotional biases can lead you astray. Financial Decoder, an original podcast from Charles Schwab, can help. Join host Mark Reeby as he offers practical solutions to help overcome the cognitive and emotional biases that may affect your investing decisions. Listen at schwab.com/financial decoder.
Did you know that parents rank financial literacy as the #1 most difficult life skill to teach? Meet Greenlight, the debit card and money app for families. With Greenlight, you can send money to kids quickly, set up chores, automate allowance, and keep an eye on your kids' spending with real-time notifications. Kids learn to earn, save, and spend wisely, and parents can rest easy knowing their kids are learning about money with guardrails in place. Try Greenlight risk-free today at greenlight.com/Wondery.
Life can change in an instant. My brother-in-law died suddenly, leaving behind my sister and her 2 young kids. He didn't have life insurance, so now they're facing the unthinkable, leaving their home. After seeing what they went through, I immediately called SelectQuote to get life insurance for my family. In 15 minutes, a licensed insurance agent compared policies from highly rated carriers to find me the right coverage in my budget. I got a $500,000 policy for only $16 a month. Plus, I qualified for same-day life insurance. No medical exam was required, and I was covered by the time I hung up. Even if you have a health concern, SelectQuote agents can find you the right policy at the lowest price. And while you can't prepare emotionally for a loss, SelectQuote can give you peace of mind with life insurance. Don't wait until it's too late.
Go to SelectQuote.com to get your free quote today. That's SelectQuote.com. SelectQuote.com. Details on example rate at SelectQuote.com.
If we can go get her. That's all I want, is just for them to just give us a location, and so that we can go get her and we can bring her back to our ranch and forget the court cases, forget the justice. Just that's all we want, is just for her to not be out there waiting, not to be out there laying somewhere waiting for us. I just wish that, like, from the bottom of my heart, that they could just give a location. Like, you can't take back what you did to Ashley. You can't take it back. I know it hurts. I know it hurts them. And I feel bad when I have to bring up, because I'm also bringing up their pain as well. And I just want them to just give up a location, like, tell us that where you put her, so that we can just go get her and bring her back, so that we don't have to keep thinking that she's laying somewhere waiting for us. I don't care about the court cases. I don't care who goes to prison. I just care that Ashley can just go home, because I know from like my deep of my soul, I know that that's all she wanted to do, is just go home. Like, you can't take back what you did to her, but you can give her back. You can give her back. Like, that's a choice that you're not doing, is that you can give Ashley back to us. Who cares who cares what happened to her? But just let her come home. Like, she wasn't an awful person, she was this beautiful girl, and she had this heart that was just so forgiving. And I know deep down that my sister would forgive them. That's what it hurts me, because of what kind of person she is. And that's all I wanted. Just tell us, is she here? Is she there? Like, can we go get her? You already know that the law enforcement doesn't do justice. Just give her back. Just give her back. We already know that nothing's going to happen. Like, why are you holding on to her?
That's Kimberly Loring, the sister of Ashley Loring Heavyrunner, a 20-year-old woman who went missing in Montana in 2017. This is the Silver Linings Handbook podcast. I'm Jason Blair. Kimberly Loring's interest in missing persons became deeply personal around June 5th, 2017. That's the day when her sister, Ashley Loring Heavyrunner disappeared on the expansive Blackfeet Nation Reservation in Montana. It's hard to describe the expanse of the Blackfeet Reservation. It's a 2,285 square mile, or 1.5 million square acre, mountainous and sprawling expanse that runs south to north along the mountains of the Lewis Clark National Forest and the Glacier National Park, to the border with Canada and back down Route 213 in Montana until it snakes west and connects back to the park. There are open hills and grasslands to the east and mountains to the west. The reservation has at least 350 farms, 175 miles of streams, 8 major lakes, and hundreds of smaller bodies of water. At the same time, it's also a relatively small community, with only approximately 17,000 residents, about 66% of them who are native. Ashley, who was 20 at the time of her disappearance, lived in Browning, Montana, a former town of 1,000 people and headquarters of the Blackfeet Nation. As a child, Ashley and her sisters, Kimberly and Jolene, spent time in foster care before going to live with their grandparents. Ashley's grandmother described her as a, quote, good girl, and that she could count on Ashley. Ashley was enrolled in the Blackfeet Community College and was studying environmental science. Ashley was known for her intelligence, her humility, her contagious smile, as a great communicator, and for her skills being a star athlete in high school, where she excelled in basketball and cross-country running. Ashley's ex-boyfriend tells a story about how once Ashley was invited to another community college in Bozeman, Montana, to give a presentation on buffalo. He told ABC News that Ashley, quote, blew everyone out of the water. And he added, she's outgoing and she's smart. She was beautiful. Just everything you could look for in a person. She had it. After her grandfather died, in a devastating breakup from her boyfriend that she had considered her first love, Ashley began to struggle, having lost 2 of her most important support systems. Those who loved her said that she began using drugs and hanging out with crowds of older people in the area. On the night of June 5th, Ashley reportedly went to her parents' house late at night and saw her father. Her father said Ashley seemed upset. She closed all the blinds when she came into the home, but would not tell her father what was wrong. When a car pulled up, Ashley ran outside, got into the car, and it drove away. That night, Ashley was seen on video at a party with friends, and she also texted her sister Kimberly, who asked if she was okay. Ashley replied, always. Ashley's last text to Kimberly asked when she was going to be home. They haven't spoken since. A man in his 50s named Sam McDonald would later say that he had spent the next 6 days with Ashley before she asked him to drop her off at a roadside pull-off in the morning on June 11th. On the morning of June 11th, in order to meet the husband of her cousin, a man who went by V-Dog, was named Paul Valenzuela. Paul was married at the time to Ashley's cousin, Tanisha Eastwood Running Crane, who goes by T. The pull-off was near Valenzuela's trailer. But McDonald said she never saw Valenzuela pick her up because he had fallen asleep after many days and nights of partying. Later, Sam's son would say that Ashley seemed paranoid during her time with McDonald and that his father had restrained her in his remote lakeside cabin in the days before she disappeared. Ashley's family would later say that Ashley had been dating Valenzuela, whose marriage to T was rocky. They denied seeing Ashley that night, and both Valenzuela and Running Crane said they had been more than 600 miles away in Seattle, a 9-hour drive in the best of circumstances. McDonald, Valenzuela, and Running Crane, however, have been pointing fingers at each other since. Undoubtedly, in some way or another, somewhere at the intersection of the three and McDonald's son, there are more answers about what happened to Ashley. At first, Ashley's family was not concerned that they hadn't heard from her because she had lost her phone more than once before. But when Ashley's father was hospitalized with a serious condition and Ashley did not return calls and messages, Kimberly became alarmed. After checking in with Ashley's friends who had not heard from her, the family called the police. The reservation has 18 police officers for more than 2,000 square miles. As the search intensified, the Bureau of Indian Affairs Police became involved. 9 months later, the case was handed off to the FBI. Mistakes were made early in the investigation. 2 weeks after Ashley was last seen, Kimberly and a family friend found a tattered sweater and red-stained boots that they believed belonged to Ashley. The Bureau of Indian Affairs, however, lost those items and didn't send them off for testing. Eventually, the Loring family would search Valenzuela's abandoned 10-panel trailer. Today, Kimberly and I are going to discuss Ashley's case and the case of another dear family friend, Leo Wagner, who went missing a little more than 4 years after the search for Ashley began. We're going to discuss the family's continued search for both of them, the challenges faced by Native communities in Montana and beyond, and Kimberly's own story of faith, healing, forgiveness, and struggle with ambiguous grief. So, Kimberly, I just wanted to thank you for having this conversation with me. I first heard about your sister's story on a podcast called the Prosecutor's Podcast. And it really just struck me in a lot of ways, some of which, like I was always described as a kid as a smart kid, but I also had moments in my life where I kind of lost my way, but still, kind of remain that same good person. And I have a lot of family members that remind me of Ashley, and it all led me to get really, really interested in your sister's case, and I was able to see you and your family on ABC News and talking about and advocating for both your sister and other missing and murdered Indigenous people, and it was really, really, I think, impressive to me. The sort of strength you guys were demonstrating and the hope. So I'm really honored to be able to have this conversation with you.
Oh, thank you so much. That's such kind of words. And it just reminds me of the strength that we have, that it only comes from our faith.
Yeah.
And that's where we get our strength from.
And I think there's some truth to that, right? Because in the world, there's so many unknowns. We all deal with unknowns on a regular basis, and I know that you're dealing with one that is very deep with your sister missing, but I think that in life, faith can prepare you for big unknowns, and it can carry you through them.
Exactly.
Yeah. One of the things that, that I mentioned to you earlier is that often, when we talk about cases where someone goes missing or something goes wrong, we often focus on that moment, right? The days before, the days after. And I don't think we spend enough time talking about the person and who they were. And I'm just curious about what Ashley was like, what growing up together was like. And, I've heard so many things about her, like her smile being contagious and her being smart and being a great communicator. And I was just curious about what it was like growing up with her.
Growing up with Ashley was really fun, just because of her personality and the spunk that she had. She's really funny, and she was really caring as well. And what she loved was she really loved her animals. And she's the type that was just always wanting to do something fun, like just jump up and do something fun. Because we grew up on a ranch, and on our ranch was my grandpa's ranch. So we're just outside playing We lived a few miles away from our little village area because we grew up on a ranch right next to Heart Butte, Montana.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful, this beautiful ranch is right next to the restaurant front. And so growing up, she was my best friend because we were far from our friends, so we'd always have to play together and just riding horses all the time. And she was my best friend and just thinking about Ashley, it just brings up this memory of like just so many memories, but they're painful because of the unknown of where she's at. And I find myself sometimes blocking out that and where I'm literally still stuck in 2017. So when I go back to thinking before we entered this nightmare, it's kind of hard because it's like a wall that I build around my heart.
Mm-hmm.
And those is where Ashley's at because
Yeah. Oh, it makes perfect sense to me. I had a guest on last year, his daughter, his name's Bruce Maitland, and his daughter Brianna, she's 17 when she went missing in Vermont. And one of the things that he said to me that really resonated was he said that there's a piece of Brianna he needs to keep to himself. And I think it's almost like that wall, right? Like that there's something behind that wall that's really hard to go to, and that there are only moments, certain moments where it feels okay or it feels safe. You had told me though about a story about Fluffy. Would you mind sharing the story of Fluffy?
yeah, we had this puppy. We had like a few dogs. They were cow dogs, and one of them was born, and he was so fluffy. He was so cute, and we taught him how to shake hands. I really wanted a puppy, and Ashley was like in charge of our dogs. These are all our dogs, but she was in charge of her. And she said, "Yes, you can have Fluffy, but you just have to sign these, these papers." And she was only in the third grade at the time. And it was these, she wrote up these adoption papers, and she put his little paw in the mud and put it on the paper. And she said, "We have to take care of him." I signed it, and so Fluffy became mine. And I always think about that. I'm like, well, my sister was so cute. Like, I had to sign it to take care of him. And unfortunately, I only had Fluffy for a little while. But I would always remember that little puppy and how my sister loved him so much.
She loved her sister. She loved her sister enough to give her the puppy, but not without. She loved the puppy enough that she wanted your commitment. That's adorable.
I had to be committed to take care of him.
No, that is so cool. The you had mentioned that it was just really fun being around her, and I mentioned the thing about her having a contagious smile, and you said that she was spunky too. It just sounds like she was full of life. You had mentioned to me that she was only 5'2", but it sounds like she carried way more than 5'2".
Yeah, her personality was way bigger than who she, bigger than her.
Right.
Yeah, and she also, she also had this temper that was just unmatched. Oh, and I just thinking about it, I'm already again like, oh my. Fighting with her was hard because I knew like she had a really big temper, and but one thing about it is that she was always forgiving. We'd be mad for a little bit, and then we apologize, and she just had this forgiving heart, and that's just what makes it really hard, with her missing, because my sister is so kind, and she can get upset with people, but she had a thing about her where she was forgiving, even if that people did her wrong. And so growing up, I always made sure to protect her because I know how sweet and soft she is, and how people could be mean to her, but she would forgive them.
Calling all dog owners. Your furry friend deserves top-notch nourishment, and Ollie delivers the clean, fresh nutrition your dog needs in 5 flavors they'll absolutely flip over. Ollie is made in U.S. kitchens with ingredients carefully sourced from trusted growers and producers around the world, with absolutely no harmful fillers or preservatives. With protein-first recipes like fresh beef with sweet potatoes, fresh turkey with blueberries, or fresh lamb with cranberries, you might start thinking, dang, my dog eats better than I do. And that's probably true when it comes to Ollie. Give your pup a fresh start this new year by letting them taste test a personalized meal plan with Ollie. Head to ollie.com/Wondery. Tell them all about your dog and use code WONDERY to get 60% off your first box of meals when you subscribe today. Plus, they offer a clean bowl guarantee on the first box. So if you're not completely satisfied, you'll get your money back. That's OLLIE.com/Wondery and enter code WONDERY to get 60% off your first box. Start your dog's new year off right with Ollie. Start your dog's new year off right with Ollie.
Ready to prioritize yourself in the new year? Your skin is a great place to start. Dime Beauty, founded by a master esthetician, is more than just a skincare company. With 4 skin-conscious categories, skincare, beauty, body care, and fragrance, Dime offers simple, spa-worthy products that will help you enter 2025 with confidence. Whether you're revitalizing your regimen with nourishing products or building one from scratch, Dime makes it easy. The Work System, our all-in-one best-selling routine, includes a cleanser of your choice, toner, serums, and moisturizers, taking the guesswork out of skincare for your healthiest, happiest skin yet. Dime's commitment to clean ingredients and sustainable packaging ensures every product is as gentle on your skin as it is on the planet. With thousands of glowing 5-star reviews and a loyal community, the results speak for themselves. Revive your skin and give yourself the routine refresh you deserve by visiting dimebeautyco.com. That's dimebeautyco.com. Your best skin awaits.
Yeah, and it's a great quality until it's not, right? Until, it's a great quality for keeping relationships going and, not having relationships fall apart over small things, but it can be a dangerous quality too once you, I guess, start interacting with people who might do you harm. So you became her protector in a lot of ways.
Yeah, she'd always call me if she got herself into a pickle, and I always, go for her rescue. And that just really hurts because I know that when she needed me, I know that she must have really, really wanted to get a hold of me.
And during that time, I know when she disappeared, you were in Morocco at the time, and I know you guys had communicated, but what do you think during that time, do you feel some kind of guilt over that? Is that what you're getting at? Or?
Oh, yeah, I held guilt for several years because I remember talking to Ashley in March of 2017 before I went over to Morocco. And she wanted to come live with me. And I told her, I was like, sis, like, I'm probably going to take a vacation. I'm going to go. And I got everything set. Like, just please, can you just wait? And then I'll come back. And I just remember feeling like, don't go, And I'm like, don't think like that. And she said, oh, of course, sis, it's a blessing. It's a big blessing that you get to go. But I'll wait for you here. And I was gone 3 months. And during that time, I was talking with her, and I traveled all up and down Morocco. And there was this one place when we went up above Morocco where it's close. It's called Tanja, where it's like close to Spain.
Spanish territory, yeah.
Yeah. And there was this hotel, and there was like this beach that looked like a sea. And it was only 9 miles away from Spain, which was interesting. And there was this boat, this huge boat that was going across. And I remember talking to Ashley and saying that after I get back, I'm going to, you're going to come back with me here.
I'm going to take you, and we're going to stare at the Mediterranean it's a beautiful area.
Exactly. And we're going to ride that boat. And she was like, oh, heck, sis, that sounds so fun. And she always said it was a blessing for me to be there. Because that was my, I went to go visit my fiance at the time. and go meet his family. So that's why I was over there.
And so she, she really was, it sounds like she was excited for you.
Yeah, she's very excited for me. And uh, which I find very interesting is during the last week of June, the first week of June, but the last week of my time in Morocco, I just remember having these really vivid dreams. And I think about them a lot. And how in our culture, when birds fly into your house, they bring in a message that's what our elders they told us growing up. And during my last week in Morocco, I was in our room and this little bird flew in. They were just staring at me, and it flew in 4 times.
Wow.
And I asked my ex-husband at the time, I said, did birds ever like fly into your house? Like fly into your room? And he said, no, I've been here for 20 years, and it's the only time a bird has ever flown into the room is when you were here. And during that week when that bird was flying in, I had these really vivid dreams of calling in my dream, and I'm in Montana, and I'm panicking, and I'm looking at a wall, and I'm panicking, and I'm trying to breathe. And I remember being in this pink room in my dream, and somebody just pounding on the trailer door, just pounding. And this man getting up, and from the bed that we were on, and somebody coming in to hurt me, and I'll wake up, and I'd always think of Ashley. And then another moment is when I was like just waking up from my sleep, and my partner at the time, he was moving around, and I remember thinking, oh, that's just Ashley. And then I woke up and I was like, that's not Ashley. Like, I'm in Casablanca. I'm 23 years old. I'm not 12 anymore. We're at the house on the ranch. But the whole week, it was just Ashley was just constantly in my dreams, or just the feeling of her, but I was panicking. And I remember the last time that when I was texting Ashley, she called me, and at that time, my in-laws, my mother-in-law, she had these people come do henna on my feet and my hands. I was talking and texting to her, and I just felt so sad that I had to stop texting because she was going to do my fingertips. And I just remember feeling like, I need to talk to Ashley.
So you and Ashley were in touch the whole time while you were in Morocco, back and forth? Like, was that a daily basis or close to that?
Yeah, because I was there for 3 weeks, 3 months. I was there for 3 months, and we would talk like every other week, and then because it was such a long time.
Yeah.
We would stay in contact, but she knew what time I was coming home, and that's when we got back in touch and we're talking.
And so tell me about the events. You were communicating with her right before you got back, and did things seem okay with her, or what was your impression of where she was at that time in terms of like how she was feeling and what was going on?
It was normal. It felt really normal. She was just asking for my sister's phone number, and she used my sister's nickname that was only used by our family, so I knew it was her. And then she just wanted some money, and I told her that I don't have any right now because I just have enough to go home. Situated because I've been gone for so long.
Right.
And then I asked her if she was home, and she just said no.
Yeah. And I remember seeing on the Facebook group that you have for Finding Ashley, I remember seeing you posted a text message, and one sort of like sequence of them, I guess they're Facebook messages, just kind of like breaks me every time I look at it, where you ask her if she's okay, and she says always.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like she said, always.
Yeah. Did so how did it unfold? You came back, and were you concerned when you got back and you weren't in touch with her? Or this is on like the 6th, right? The something like that, the 5th of the 6th of June.
Yeah, I flew out early morning June 7th in Morocco time, so it would be still on the 6th for Montana. And then it was 18 hours, almost 18-hour flight, or like 20 hours it took me to get home.
Mm.
And then, so I got home at 10:25 p.m. and my auntie came to pick me up from Missoula at the airport. And I remember thinking like, that actually hasn't messaged me yet. And I'm tired, because I had a 12-hour layover. Oh, no, it was much longer because I had a 12-hour layover in Paris, yeah. So I just remember thinking like, wow, she must be busy. She must suddenly go to bed. Next day, I woke up and she has a message. And so I was just waiting for her, just to pop up. And I remember looking on her Facebook, it said last active 18 hours ago. And that usually doesn't go that high. It's really rare back then that it would go that high, which I really found interesting. Because it would go like an hour, 2 hours, 5 hours, and that will stop, like at 4 or something. But it literally said 18 hours last active.
And you're like, this is really strange for me to get on Facebook Messenger and not see that she was there a couple hours ago or a couple minutes ago or something like that. So that stuck in your mind. When did you first start to become worried?
So my family, we were told that during that time, we were told that she was hanging out with friends. And one thing that really, really, really hurt her case is that she'd always lose her phones. That's the problem. She'd always lose her phones. And by then, by then she was 20 years old. She was 20, so she, just out and about. We were told she was with a friend, and I remember growing up with that friend. I'm like, okay, she's fine, because I lived 4 hours away from the reservation at that time, and my family. But my mom and them were looking for her. They were trying to get a hold of her, and then that's when the rumors started, and my mom really got really got worried, and it was.
What were the rumors that started?
Just that she was hurt, that somebody hurt her, and so my mom was the one that went to the police and told them that, put the missing report on. And my best friend messaged me at the time, and she said, hey, I just saw this Facebook post. I didn't find your sister yet, because I was still focused, because I always just got engaged, and I was trying to figure out how to, get my job so I can get everything going, so I can go back to Morocco. And I started working at a shelter, and then I started calling Ashley and texting, she wouldn't answer. And then that's when we were told she was with these certain people. That's when I really realized that my sister was using at the time. Because I would always ask her, and this is what really hurt us, is that our connection was strong, and I always believed her. Whatever she told me, I would believe her, even though when other people would be saying otherwise, And I'd asked her, I'm like, are you using drugs? And she'd be like, oh no, sis, I'm just drinking. I'm like, well, you need to stop. And that was our downfall, is that I believed her, and it's she didn't want me to be disappointed.
Yeah, and I don't know, you used the word downfall there, but, just thinking of as from my own position as a recovering addict, like there's no matter how much love someone had for me, they weren't going to stop me. Only I was going to stop me. And you're exactly right. Like one of the things that made it hardest for me was because people love me so much, I didn't want them to know how bad it was. And they never found out until it blew up enormously. Yeah. So how did you guys started to find out, you started to hear rumors that she was hanging out with a bad crowd, that drugs were involved. and that someone had hurt her. Was that strange? That must have been strange to hear.
Yeah, and it was really bad where I started posting flyers on Facebook and going to powwows that was close to Missoula. It was not the powwow. I put up flyers, and then one of my dad's cousin, my auntie came and got me. I went to Polson with my other auntie, and
Missoula is far from where you guys grew up, or where Ashley was living in Browning, right? Missoula is on the other side, right?
Yeah. So we're like 4 hours away. And I was in Missoula. There's much older than Ashley. We're 3 years older than her.
Right.
I've been out of the house a while. No. So I just moved back to Montana not long ago because I used to live in Missouri, and I came back, and that's where I landed back in Missoula. So, back, and my auntie brings me, I jump in with my other auntie, and then on like June 26th is when they had their first surge. They told us, we went to this mile marker by Milky Way. We're up in the mountains, like right by Glacier National Park, and they said we got a tip that she was running from a vehicle from this old man, and I just remember thinking, like, who is this person? Like, I don't know anybody that really into drugs back home because if I never got into that life, so I didn't really know who was all involved. But I did know my cousin, who later became the suspect. I knew that she was on drugs, and so I remember before I came home, I reached out to Tashina and I asked her because she kept posting. She kept posting Facebook on Facebook. She got left, and she was posting that she got left in Seattle, and I just remember thinking, like, oh, my cousin, like why she put herself in this situation, like Seattle's so far from home, and like who's in Seattle to bring her back? I felt compassion towards her, but she caught my eye because when I was in Morocco, my ex-husband had to, he had to go to school, so I was with my ex-mother-in-law, and she didn't speak English. So I was constantly on Facebook, just strolling. And Tashina never posted until I got home, and she kept posting. And so I reached out to her because I knew she was using drugs because I watched a video of her prior before I left. She posted this video of her using drugs, and not using the drugs, but she looked high and talking ridiculously. You could tell she was in that lifestyle. And I'm like, that's so embarrassing. And I'm like, she's still in it. And so when I saw her, I just wanted to talk to my cousin and be like, hey, because I didn't know about who Ashley was hanging out with at the time.
So you really reached out to T at first, just simply to say, who are the people? Yeah, who are the people? I think Ashley's involved in drugs. We can't find her. Who are the people that she could be hanging out with? What did she say?
I reached out to her for a resource to help me, because we're family. She's my dad's first cousin. And I messaged her, talked to her, and she told me, she's mad at her. She said she's a big girl, I'm mad at her. I found that interesting. And then she told me to call her she told me to call her husband, named Paul Venezuela. So I was like, okay. But she made it clear to let me know that call me back and, tell me if he's mean to you. And I'm like, hey, like who is this person? I don't even know who he was at the time.
So she was worried that you all were mad at her?
No, she said she was mad at Ashley.
Oh, she was mad at Ashley. Got it. Huh.
I found that interesting. And then she gave me a number to call. She said, call Paul. He's my husband. Call him. Because he gave her a ride to Town Pup a few weeks ago. And you let me know if he's mean to you. And I'm like, okay, thank you so much. I call him. I'm like, he answers. I'm like, hi, Paul. I'm just calling because Tashina told me to call you. I'm looking for Ashley. She said that you gave her a ride to Town Pump. And I've never heard anybody since then blow up at me so quick. And like he just started yelling, "She's lying! She's lying! I don't believe her!" And I was just like on the phone, like, "Oh my!" And he was just screaming. This stranger to me, I didn't know. And I later found out that Ashley was hanging around him. And so I played cool, and I told Tashina that he doesn't know. But then that's when she became a suspect. And then I went home the next couple of days. I went home the next day, and I went to that mile marker where they were having all the police meet and the Homeland Security. Met with the BIA agent, Kyle Sinclair, and he wanted to take my statement inside his truck. And I told him from the very beginning, Tashina and Crane and Paul Venezuela has something to do with Ashley because of their reaction.
Yeah. So the real tip off for you was one, like, why is she telling me she's mad at Ashley when she's got to know Ashley's missing? Why is she sending me toward Paul and asking whether he's upset? And then why is this guy, I don't know, just blowing up at me for no particular reason, as he also knows I'm looking for my sister? It's not the reactions you would expect people to have, because what you would expect, I imagine, right, is more compassion.
Yeah. And then he texted me back on my Facebook later that day and said, "Hey, somebody called me about Ashley. Did you guys find her yet?" He didn't put two and two together that I was that person that called.
Oh, wow.
Because he blew up so hard. He just lost it. And I was like, and I just remember him like, "She's lying, she's lying."
Because he felt like you were accusing him of something, even though you were just asking.
Yeah, I was just on a phone in the living room trying to figure out where my baby sister's at. She got a ride from some Paul Venezuela. Let me call Tashina's husband. I don't even know Tashina was married. I just knew she was drugs.
So it made everything suspicious.
Very suspicious. From the very beginning, she was the first person I called.
So you ended up mentioning something to the Bureau of Indian Affairs police officer. And how did and you mentioned that a search began, and that there was a certain spot that they were looking for. I had read that, and I'm not sure whether these are the same story or they're two different stories, but I read a story near a dump, a tattered sweater being found. And then I had read another story, and maybe these are two different incidences, or they're like, essentially the same thing, but that you had been searching and you had found a tattered sweater and boots that were stained with something red. Is that true? Is that accurate?
Oh yeah, one of our searches we ran into. We just dug up this old sweater that somebody when we were talking to one of the waiters, and she described this sweater, and we found it, and it was buried somewhere by the dump, and these boots were dropped off, but they were small. They looked very suspicious, and the cops took everything, and for 7.5 years now, we still have no information on what about that that evidence.
Mm-hmm.
We even went to the Senate and told them about the evidence because at that time at the Senate it was lost. The law enforcement told us that they lost it, and so when I brought it up at the Senate, right when I got up after the hearing, one of the head guys from the BIA in Washington D.C. said, "We found the evidence. We found it." And I'm like, interesting how
it took me going to the U.S. Senate for you to look through the closet and find it.
You find it, and
where was it?
I don't know. They just said, "Oh, we got it. We found it." And then the next day, they dig up this old body that everybody knew was there, I guess. And it happened to be an old BIA officer from a long time ago. And I'm like, you guys dug up some old man and to make it look like they're doing something in Ashley's case. Yeah.
So so you still haven't found out what happened with those boots and sweater and whether they were tested? I assume you talked to them. No results, or they just tell you they can't tell you what's going on?
Oh no, they never mentioned it after they found them. They never called, nothing. Nothing. It's almost 8 years now.
Wow.
We don't know.
That's wild.
We later think that they might not be her boots just because of the size, you know.
Yeah.
At that moment, it was
Something important. Yeah. Because you're less than a month, right? At that point. But you're a couple weeks after her disappearance when you initially found them. What were you and your family and in law enforcement able to figure out over time about where Ashley had been between, the point that you last communicated with her and she was last reported to be seen?
Yeah, we were able to find all that information out for the law enforcement.
So you all are the ones who discovered that. Okay.
They spoke to a lot of people. They would always tell us that they can't tell us a lot. They have more than we have, but there was also a warrant out for somebody's arrest for stating that they had a part in the murder, and at the tribal court, that warrant was put into a different file, into somebody else's file. So it took this lawyer from the court to bring it up, to be like, hey, this is this is wrong. There was a warrant out and nobody's talking about it. There was this lawyer that just popped up and said, this is how corrupt the court is. And, we did find out, and we were telling the BIA that if they could arrest that person, the agent stated that he didn't have this arresting card. We talked to his higher ups, like, what is he talking about? Like what kind of card does he need to arrest? And his higher ups were like, what the hell is he talking about? He is a arresting agent. He can arrest. And he never arrested her. And unfortunately, that young lady, she passed away last year.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But the agent told us that he was unable to arrest because of some imaginary card that he needed.
That's so strange. You had just mentioned a second ago that a lot of the information in the case really comes from what you all were able to share with law enforcement. How did you do that, and how did you feel about the law enforcement response in the beginning? Because I just think about a reservation that large, like more than 1 million square acres. It's mountainous on one side, it's grassy on the other, all those lakes and streams, and it's an enormous space. And then I was shocked to hear that the tribal police only had 18 authorized officers, that the Bureau of Indian Affairs, which also has police, had a relatively small presence there. So, I almost feel like for a territory that vast, that's not enough law enforcement. But I'm curious about what the response was. And it's almost like you guys launched your own investigation, your own family investigation.
Yeah, we just went around talking to people, running into the suspects. And one thing that we found out that right away is not to trust some officers. I ran into Tashina one time, and she waved me down. And she took me out of town. It was me and my auntie. I ran into her. We were driving by Town Pump. It's one of the main gas stations back home. And she brought me all the way almost to Star School to Conley Lanes in the middle of nowhere, right next to the Rocky Mountains. And we jumped out. She's talking. She's drinking a Twisted Tea. And all of a sudden, she's telling me that all the people that she's sleeping with. And I'm like, okay, it's interesting. And then she brings up that she she's doing this to try to find Ashley, but she's not searching with us. She's very radical, and all of a sudden these unmarked vehicles just drove by just fast, like flying towards Star School by the mountains. And she freaked out, and she's trying to grab her phone. And when she's grabbing her phone, she wants me to help her. And I'm like, okay. And I'm in the back seat behind her driver's side, and I reach under to look at the phone, jump under her seat, and I pull out pistols.
Whoa.
Guns out underneath her seat. And as soon as she grabs it, she finds her phone on the passenger side, and she runs up, she puts on a speaker, and she calls Officer Kenny Perdue, one of the first officers on Ashley's case.
And that's one of the tribal police officers who was first on the case?
Yeah.
Was he a native? Or
Yeah.
was he a native, or was he?
Yeah, he's from home.
Okay.
Both of our officers are Blackfeet.
Okay.
Yeah, and the only reason I know it was that officer is because he didn't pick up the first call, and it went straight to his voicemail, and he stated his name. I remember just looking at her like, how does she have their number when my family are talking to officers in gas stations to see if they heard anything? Other officers not even on her case. Because we can't get a hold of anybody. After I talked to, Sinclair, they're not talking to us, And he calls back. And I just remember watching her. And he calls back. And he said, don't worry. It's nothing to do with Ashley.
Wow.
And I
You
was
heard
like,
him on speakerphone say that?
yeah. And I was like, oh, was that one of the officers? And she's like, yeah, that's who I'm sleeping with. And I later found out that is true. She had this altercation, this fight with his wife at the time at the hospital. Nothing happened there. She hit her, and the wife was upset that she didn't even go to jail for it. And she ended up pregnant. Tashina ended up pregnant, and I talked to her on the phone one time, and she told me, "Oh, that her daughter's father is a deadbeat dad." And I'm like, "Oh, who?" Thinking she's gonna say Paul. And she's like, "Oh, freaking Kenny Perdue."
Oh, wow.
I'm like, "Oh man, why he's not helping you?" He's like, "He's not paying child support."
One of the really strange things about listening to you talk about that call, like at first blush, if you took it totally out of context, you could sort of think, maybe he's telling her, don't worry, this isn't about your cousin, because she's going to be, she might be worried. But the fact that she was panicking to try and get her phone, it kind of makes me think that not worrying meant something else.
Yeah, like, don't worry, it's nothing to do with Ashley. I just watch her, see what's her reaction, because I like to see them.
And I'm sure that made you even more suspicious at that point. Was law enforcement taking you seriously about your concerns about T and Paul?
No. There was this news reporter out of Great Falls that had to come up and be like, why are we seeing this family like practically posting all over Facebook and getting people to share that this person's missing? And she came to to Browning to talk to the officers, and they said, oh no, she's not missing, she's just an attempt to locate, after we already did searches saying that she was seen on this road. She was being chased by this man and she was running. That's why we did those searches. And that officer, Kenny Perdue, said, oh no, she's not missing, she just attempt to locate. And so that's how that reporter, her name is Rachel Cole Spreading Wings, had to pitch her story being like, why isn't there a missing report, that's sent to us? And when we were doing more searches, there was an area where we found these sheets that looked like they were like dried blood on them. And that's when we called the police. They were coming, and then Officer Kenny Perdue was the first one on the scene. And I just remember being just yelling at him to get away. Like, you need to leave. You know, you're not welcome here because I know that you're involved with Tashina and I caught you red-handed and you need to get off Ashley's case and not, be here. He was the very first officer and I told him, that I was there when Tashina called you that time and you were talking to the suspect. And he said, yes, that was me. I didn't know she was a suspect at the time. It's really messed up because when I first talked to officers about Ashley's case, it was always about Tashina and Paul. That's what really hurt. Because I was like, who am I going to trust? This officer is romantically involved
with it.
The suspect.
Did he remain on the case, or did they eventually replace him? I know the BIA got involved and the FBI got involved, but did the tribal police bring another investigator to take the lead?
Well, we had Kyle Sinclair on the BIA, and it was really hard because he also had ties with Tashina in the past. So both officers had ties to her, one recent, one in the past. And that just really hurt Ashley's kids. And it was his corruption of his officers.
Do you think it was like some fear on their part to even open the door because it would lead back, even if they didn't know whether she was involved, if there was a chance she was involved, it could lead back to them in a negative way related to their relationship with him or with her? Or
I'm not sure. I just know that they didn't take Ashley's case serious when she was put on NamUs. They had her name wrong, and the tip line was to the casino.
And that's the National Missing Persons and Unidentified Persons database, and they put the casino's phone number in there instead of
the casino's number. And the person that found that out was the news reporter. She's like, so I seen that they put her on in November, but the tip line is the casino. I'm like, what? Because she wasn't put on there for a while.
Yeah. So it was from June to November, and her name was wrong too?
Yeah. So she went by Loring. That's our mother's name. It's my grandpa's name. We were raised by my grandpa. So we all go by Loring. But she didn't illegally change her last name. I illegally changed my last name. Because of my stutter, because I couldn't say my first and my last name, so I didn't just mess up on my first name, say Loring,
easier.
With but Ashley, she kept Heavyrunner. So when they had her name, they put her as Ashley Loring, and known by also with her real last name Heavyrunner, which they should have been switched.
Right.
And the tip line was the casino.
This is so strange. Yeah. Sloppiness, right? In the best version of events. And then eventually you found out that she may have or did spend several days with a man that you guys didn't know who lived on the reservation, Sam McDonald. How did you figure that out? Did he come forward or because I imagine once your sister disappeared, it would have made sense for him to come forward, or did you guys figure that out, or law enforcement?
Just people's putting names around, and he's known for hanging out with young girls and doing awful things to them. And so I messaged him, and then his son texted back this big old paragraph of just stay off my back. My dad's a good dad. He's a great dad. He's a good person. He's my best friend. And just all this big thing. And I'm like, why are you getting so offensive when I only asked your father one time? Because I'm asking everybody who was last seen with her if they've seen Ashley. And he came at me so strong, where he also put up his little red flag of defense. And that's what made us just lock on to him as well.
And how did
his son's reaction?
And how did you guys eventually find out his story? Did he tell you all, or did he tell law enforcement? I'm just curious because like one of the things that I seem to be picking up in this story is that no one, and I think Sam is non-native, right? But it sounds like no one. Oh, he is? Okay. That no one.
I'm not sure.
Oh, okay. No one seemed to be, none of the people who were around her in the days before, I don't want to say none, right? But a lot of them did not seem to be volunteering, even though they must have known that she was missing. They didn't seem to be volunteering to help or give you guys information. Oh, I saw her on this day or that day. Is that fair, or am I reading that wrong?
It was just so many of like people like seeing who was all involved, and there was a group of people, and some people would talk to us, some people wouldn't. And what really got us is their different reactions. Different reactions. Some of them didn't come to us. Some of them, one person came to us pleading like he had nothing to do with it.
Mm.
Other than that, they stayed clear. We'd go to their house, we would talk to them, and we'd have to write down things. It was a nightmare. All these awful rumors.
What led to you, one of the strangest things too about your case was, and Ashley's story, was hearing that you all actually ultimately ended up, like my understanding of the events, if I have this right, is that, somewhere between June 5th or June 6th, like Ashley was seen or by your father around June 5th, and then she went to a party. And my understanding is that, she had left, your dad didn't see what car she went in, and then she went to a party where her being on the couch was kind of captured on videotape. But that the next several days she spent with Sam McDonald. How did you guys find out even about that? Or did he?
He just made up this elaborate romantic story that doesn't make any sense. Doesn't make any sense the way that he talked about Ashley. He forgets that he doesn't know her, and he tries his best to try to paint a picture of Ashley. He doesn't know her. So we are able to see through the lies of how he portrays her, how she, just the way she talked to him, and the way she was doing things. And we let him talk for a while, and just to see how he reacts, because everything done in darkness always comes to light. Always comes to light.
So
remember a lot.
So he had a story of romance with her.
This story of romance, and he is this older gentleman that is quite, scary looking, to be quite honest, just the way he portrays himself, the way that, the way that people that live near him talk about these nightmares that these women are running from his house in such states of like drugged out and have needles in their feet and swimming away from the lake. And I didn't know him at all. These are all people coming forward and telling us of all these awful things that he would do to women. And he's known for partying with young women. Like just recently, we posted about him, and somebody came in his defense and tried to, tried to tell us how good of a man he is. But she also states, in a way, it was quite interesting how she says it. She says, I did meth for the first time, and I was partying at Sam's, and I was 18, and I wandered in his room, and I fell asleep, and he took the beer out of my hands, and he closed the door so nothing will happen to me. He's a good man, but that does not...
It's not the story every parent wants to hear about going to some guy's house.
First of all, the drinking age is 21. This little girl is 18 years old doing meth for the first time at this 50, 60-year-old man's house. Why is she falling asleep in his bed? Why isn't he bringing her home like a good man would bring this teenager home? But she's trying meth for the first time, and she's passing out where he's closing the door on her, where she said wandered into his room, which means you don't know what you're doing. This is an 18-year-old child running and going and drinking in this old man's house.
Did
And
this?
I found it interesting. I'm like, how is he a good man? That's not qualities of a good person, my friend. Like, you're stating what you experienced, but honey, that is trauma.
Right.
You're sharing us trauma, but you're saying he's a good man.
Did that happen after Ashley's disappearance, or?
Yeah, that just happened like just a few days ago when
wow.
we're bringing everything back up on Ashley's page. And I stated that not one person on the reservation has came forward to us to tell us that he's a good person. We've only been told these nightmares about him. And she thought that she should come up and be that good person. She stated, like, I'll be that good person. And I'm like, honey, that's a nightmare that you just described.
So he describes, like you said, the story of sort of like a whirlwind 5-day plus romance with Ashley that involved lots of drug use, like meth use and stuff like that.
Yeah. And sex.
Yeah, and he says in this story that he took her to a sort of drop-off point where who they call V-Dog, I hate to even use the nickname, but whose Paul was going to pick her up. And one of the things that I had also read was that his son came forward at some point to say that Ashley was indeed at his house, but that there was a moment where she had become paranoid and they had restrained her, or his dad had restrained her. Is that an actual truthful story?
Yeah, it's just these ridiculous nightmares that are popping up, but they try to cover it with, oh, she walked off and came back and she was delirious and dancing in the yard. And he talks about these cameras in his house, but he won't show us the footage. He'll show me a bear going in his house. Oh, no, a bear going around his house. But, Sam, can you show me the cameras from that week-long freaking love story that you had with my sister? Where's those cameras at?
Yeah.
No.
So you really don't trust that whole story. Do you believe the part about him dropping her off?
No.
Okay.
And just the way that he describes my sister, saying, oh, she looked up in the mountains and there was this cabin and she wanted to know how to get there. He doesn't know. He forgets. He doesn't know Ashley. He doesn't know that she's actually climbed that mountain because he doesn't know her. She's been up there. There's no reason for her to be like, what is that on that mountain? Well, obviously, she was inside of it before. She knows where it's at. That's where he messed up. He forgets that he doesn't know Ashley.
And is that
he wouldn't have scared me.
Is that cabin he's talking about Paul's trailer,
No,
or was that something else?
It's on Divide Mountain. It's a cabin that was made in 1930s or something. It's old wood frame. There's like a cabin up there. It's like in wood frame. It's not like, and you come up there and this is old wood frame that's been there for like almost 100 years. And so, and he thinks that he could say, oh, what is that? And we would believe, no, my sister has climbed that mountain. My sister has been inside that cabin. So right there, it doesn't make sense.
And
we just let them go.
And he also said, like, he was dropping her off to get picked up by Paul, but he fell asleep in the car. Are you leaning toward the idea that like Sam, Paul, and T are somehow involved, or at least one of them? What's your current thinking?
My current thinking is all the same feathers flock together. They're all together. They all go off of Sam's little timeline, and it has holes.
So you think it's possible she had gone missing before?
There's no such thing as the 6-day romance that he has with her. It happened fast, it happened quick, and they ran away from each other. And as soon as they ran away from each other, they started pointing fingers. And that's what happened.
And so
my sister, the way he described my sister, like, who are you talking about? Like, I know my sister my whole life. She's 20 years old. I remember the day that she was born. I remember everything about her, and you're describing a stranger to me. He forgets that. He thinks he's so smart. He forgets that that is my sister, my blood sister. I watched her from growing up my whole life. He described a complete stranger to me because he's the stranger.
What does it feel like to have people in your community and also somebody who's your relative be unwilling and being so defensive, being unwilling to cooperate? Is it like frustrating, and are you angry at them? How do you feel?
I felt very, at first I was very angry with them when I had really awful thoughts about them. But now I'm just speaking what I know, the truth. And like, I don't want anything bad to happen to them. I want them to turn from their ways and to repent and to find Jesus. That's what I want. But you need to confess and know that what you did was wrong. My sister is still missing. I will never give up my sister, but I don't want anything bad to happen to you. I want you to change your life around. I want you to find Jesus. I don't want you to die or get sick or I want the best for you. And that's the gift that I got from Jesus, is that I don't hate them. I hate their actions. I hate that they used drugs and forgot that my sister was a human and a life and she was loved. I hate that they chose to be in that lifestyle. But deep down, I know that they have to have some kind of good in them, but they choose to not live it, to live it. I don't want anything bad to happen to them. I just want them to be strong. And to tell the truth, you have to be strong. It's so easy to just not talk. But when you talk, you have to have strength, and that only comes from Jesus.
I was having a conversation with somebody recently where we were talking about like this idea, and it's a idea that you see in like AA and NA, and the line is, you're only as sick as your secrets. And as long as you keep secrets, you will remain sick. And another thought that I had, like just as you were talking, is like the truth will eventually find you, no matter how far you try to run from it or hide or what hole you crawl in. It doesn't mean that it's necessarily coming in your lifetime. It doesn't mean it's coming next week, but inevitably the truth becomes pretty apparent. And when you think about your sister's case, what are your sort of hopes for resolution? What would bring you more peace?
If we can go get her. That's all I want, is just for them to just give us a location, and so that we can go get her and we can bring her back to our ranch and forget the court cases, forget the justice. Just that's all we want. It's just for her to not be out there waiting, not to be out there laying somewhere waiting for us. I just wish that, like, from the bottom of my heart, that they could just give a location. Like, you can't take back what you did to Ashley. You can't take it back. I know it hurts. I know it hurts them. And I feel bad when I have to bring up, because I'm also bringing up their pain as well. And I just want them to just give up a location, like, tell us that where you put her, so that we can just go get her and bring her back, so that we don't have to keep thinking that she's laying somewhere waiting for us. I don't care about the court cases. I don't care who goes to prison. I just care that Ashley can just go home, because I know from like my deep of my soul, I know that that's all she wanted to do, is just go home. Like, you can't take back what you did to her, but you can give her back. You can give her back. Like, that's the choice that you're not doing, is that you can give Ashley back to us. Who cares who hurt her? Who cares what happened to her? But just let her come home. Like, she wasn't an awful person, She was this beautiful girl, and she had this heart that was just so forgiving. And I know deep down that my sister would forgive them. That's what it hurts me, because of what kind of person she is. And that's all I want is just tell us, is she here? Is she there? Like, can we go get her? You already know that the law enforcement doesn't do justice. Just give her back. Well, just give her back. We already know that nothing's going to happen. Like, why are you holding on to her?
Mhm.
You know, and it makes me very emotional because it's so simple. It's so simple. Just drops, like, just, oh, she's here. She's there. Like, we put her here.
An anonymous call, anything.
Yeah.
See, do you want, like, listening to what you're saying, like, and I feel that pain, it sounds like for you, like, it's almost like knowing that someone knows, or that multiple people know something. It feels like they're stealing her from you over and over and over again every day.
Yeah. It's like, you can tell how their life is turning out because we reap what we sow. You live a life, you get what you give out, you know? And you can tell who was telling the truth. You can tell who tried to help us, who tried to be, and you can see their life is blossoming. You know, their life is going good, and the people that are not, that are involved, they're dying. Some of them died. Some of them are still in their addiction. They're losing stuff. Their life is a complete mess. But the ones that had nothing to do with it, but they came forward to us to try to help, they're doing good. They have families. They're, you know, their careers going. Their heart is good, and you can see it. You can see who. But the ones that are not, some people died. You know, the ones that knew about Ashley, some of them passed away, and some of them are going crazy.
Do you think that, do you believe that resolution will come? Like, are you prepared for the idea that you may not get an answer?
Yeah, I feel like that I will keep continuing to try to find her. But if we don't ever find her, um, then I will have trust in Jesus that it is for a reason and that He has plans for us. You know, plans, you know, for hope for our future.
Absolutely. One of the things that that's come out of this, right, is you've become an advocate and a voice, right, for the broader problem of missing and murdered Indigenous people. And I think, like, for me, there are too few voices. One of the things in this industry that will tell you is if we do an episode on a missing and murdered Indigenous person, the downloads will drop. They instantly will drop. But you know what? They're not dropping as much as they used to, right? And so I see more people engaged, more people interested. And I think having voices like yours out there who are willing to be vulnerable and show this part of your life that is so unbelievably painful humanizes people and makes it harder for people to turn away. And I also think about, your family after Ashley disappeared. Your family and your friends suffered again through the disappearance of Leo Wagner. And I imagine that the experience with Ashley probably helped you guys love Leo's family more deeply.
Yeah, when we were able to help Leo, to help look for Leo, his older brother was searching for him, Billy, and I just remember looking at Billy, and it was as if I was looking in the mirror of like the past of like how I was looking for my little sister and he's looking for his little brother, and it was just so heartbreaking because I knew exactly where he was coming from, and because it was a few years after Ashley went missing, and
it was like watching yourself from the outside.
yeah, I got to see because he would say things that I said, and he would go through things that I went through with, with my family, and how trauma works in our family, and how people react differently. And he was just being strong and trying to look for his baby brother. And the heartache and the pain of watching him hear these rumors, but of him being strong and being able to share my faith with him, we became stronger because we were in the same boat, and that we have the same love towards our sibling, and that we were able to help Leo, to help Leo's case be recognized, and listening to of how the law enforcement didn't take Leo's case serious as well. At first, from the very beginning, from the very first hours of people calling, they called there was a witness, these elders. This elder man was dying from cancer at the time. He unfortunately passed away, but he talked about how Leo was walking in and out of the lake, and he was bleeding, and it was April, and it was kind of cold that day, and they were trying to talk to him, and he was crying. They called the police, and the police was like, "What do you want us to do? We're in the middle of a shift change." So the elder man yelled and said, "This man's going to die. This boy's going to die." And they called again, like 20 minutes later. They got like this ambulance to come up, to St. Mary's. They couldn't find Leo. But before then, the elder man went to a road that was close to the cabins by the lake. And there was two people sitting there. There was Crystal Arrowtop-Knot and Drew Gardapi. And Drew Gardapi was also who we were told that Ashley was hanging out with. And so the man said, "Hey, is that your friend? He's bleeding. He's walking in on top of the lake." And we called the police to come, and the old man stated they took off like a bat out of hell. They just took off and drove off.
Oh, wow.
And they just left him because Leo went up there to go run into his father. His father was working on a house up there, but his dad said, "Don't come up because I'm just going to be here for a little bit." But Leo wanted to come see him. And so when he went down to the cabin, he was gone. Like, he wasn't there. His dad wasn't there. And so, and then later on, they found out that there was this cabin that Leo got into, this summer cabin, got into it. Yeah, he was cut, and there was this stump that was just soaked in his blood. It was soaked all the way through the stump to the deck, and it was this deck that wrapped around the A-shaped cabin.
Oh, wow.
And you can see the blood trail going from the back of the window of the back of the A-shaped cabin all the way to the front. And they said there was a dog with him. It was a neighbor's dog. He was a German Shepherd that was walking with Leo. Leo was going in and out of the water. And as soon as when we got up through the cabin to help Billy, like a few months after we were missing, I came back from Washington to go help him. That dog was right there. So it totally makes sense that dog was walking with Leo because his neighbor's dog was. And so when the police finally came that night when Leo went missing, he just searched around for a little bit, that officer, and just drove off. They later, the family put out a missing report, and there was like a big search for Leo. Like, they were paying people to come search. They did a good job with that, but it was too late.
Right. And there's an importance, right? There's an importance in being able to respond quickly. And I think it's difficult everywhere to get the response that you want. But I think particularly on reservations, it can be even more complex to get the response that you need. Do you all still search for Leo and search for Ashley?
Yes, Billy and Leo's twin sister, they would go out there and still search the lake. Billy bought a boat to search the lake, and the one thing what I just now thought of is if that officer would have got out and looked at the cabin, he would have found that blood-drenched stump.
Mm-hmm.
And if he found that, because this stump is so soaked with Leo's blood, and they left that stump from April to July. That stump was still there. And when I came from Washington to help, because I was like, so if they're looking for him, and if Billy is still looking for his brother this summer, I'm going to go down there because I know that they're not going to take him serious. I'll go help him myself. And I went down there. I stayed a couple weeks looking, and we had this. We went up there, and Billy's dad said that if he doesn't find Leo, he wants to bury that stump.
Mm.
And so, we had this blanket. I'm from Olivia. We had this blanket from North Dakota. It was Matthew Lone Bear's sister, and had a funeral because she went missing in North Dakota. And when we went to, they actually, so Matthew Lone Bear helped us search as well. But when they found their sister, she was also in the lake and the passenger of her truck, and it was ruled suicide, which is interesting. But they had a funeral for her, and the family sent us all their search equipment, like walkie-talkies, search stuff. They gave it to them. And they also gave us a blanket that was used at her funeral as Pendleton. And so I wrapped that stump in that Pendleton, and I gave it to his family. But that was there from April to July.
Wow.
So just sitting there.
What for you, you had mentioned to me that your father had one request of you, to leave the reservation. Why did he ask you to do that?
So my father, before he passed away in 2020.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. He would search with us and everything, and he's seen how I would really get Ashley's name out there and go search and just did all these things to find her. He asked me, he said, "My girl, can you just go up to, to go up to Washington? Because my auntie lives here, and that's who I went up here, my mom's sister." And he said, "Can you do that for me? Can you go up there so I don't have to worry about another daughter, that I know that when you get up there, you're able to take care of yourself? Can you do that for me?" And so I've been up here. 6, almost 7 years.
Yeah. So it was your gift to him.
Yeah, it was my gift to my dad so that he doesn't have to worry about another daughter. And he was right. I came up here, and I'm still taking care of myself. I have an apartment, a car, and a job. And
it sounds like hope and faith you also have.
Yeah. I was able to find Jesus again because I always knew Jesus is God and He's Lord. And I just turned away from Him. I remember when Ashley first went missing, I told God that I can't wait on you, God. I need to find Ashley. And I remember turning to psychics and mediums and fortune tellers, and it hurt our case. It hurt the search for Ashley because it has led us into a circle and hurtful things. And so God was able to show that to me, that we're not to do that, that when you need help, you turn to Him. And when I was baptized, I found this church up here. One day, I was working at a daycare, and I just had this burning in my heart, like, I want to read the Bible. I went to work, and one of my students came up to me and was like, Miss Kimberly, can you help me read this? Can you help me read this? And I'm like, yeah, 1 second. I looked down, and this little girl's holding the Bible. My mom's going to AA meetings. Her daughter, so her mom's going to AA meetings, and she goes with her mom, and she got a Bible, and she's like, help me read this. And I go home, and I'm like, Lord Jesus, like, I want a Bible. And my neighbor is outside, and I'm talking to this neighbor, just walking on the parking lot. I tell her the story about this little girl, and she's like, "Oh, we have Bible study here every morning in my apartment, in my apartment." And that's how I met my friends. And then Daniel brought this Bible to me, and that's when I became friends with my good friends here. And then when I went to their church, and And then, and I was baptized on Tashina's birthday.
Oh, wow.
Not even knowing it, because I used to dream of Tashina, and I would run into her, and in my dream, I would dream that I would just bang her head on the sink. You remember that? Just this anger I had towards her, where I just want to hit her, and I would just bang her head on the sink. And when I got baptized, it was not her birthday, and I went to sleep that night, and I had this dream, and Tashina was standing in front of me. And I walked up to her, and I told her happy birthday in my dream. And which is really crazy, during my baptism, there was guest singers. There was guest singers who were singing. And after we were done, because the pastor heard of my story of forgiveness, that I went through this heart change workshop, experiencing the heart of Jesus. And I was able to just unload all this hurt that I had, this rock I was holding. And I was able to receive the gift of forgiveness. And I shared it with the church, and then they did a sermon on forgiveness, and they shared Ashley's story, and that was during my baptism. Here, it turns out the guest singers who were singing at my baptism was a BIA agent who worked with Kyle Sinclair and worked in Browning and knows all about my sister's case. And it was just...
What are the odds of that? You're in Washington State, in Vancouver, Washington, and a BIA agent who happened to work on a case in Browning, Montana that involved your sister was there on the day of your baptism.
On my baptism, on Tashina's birthday.
It's on Tashina's birthday. Yeah, that's the kind of thing that makes you feel like they're miracles. Because what are the odds of that?
It was like, I remember after I got baptized, I actually got baptized in my church. I went surfing in, and it has a picture of Ashley on the front, and it's all tore up, like holes in it because of the thorn bushes that I would go through and search for Ashley. It has a bunch of holes in it, but I wanted her to be a part of my baptism. And after that, I got baptized, and I was outside going to leave. That's when the agent... he walked up to me. He was singing at my baptism, and he just came up and told me his name. I don't even know his name, and he told me it, and he said that he works for the BIA and that he knows Kyle Sinclair, and he worked with him, and he said, I know Ashley's case, and I told him, I was like, did you know it's Tashina's birthday today? And he just looked at me. I was like, isn't that beautiful? But I remember being like, what? Like, you worked for the BIA?
Right.
Beautiful moment.
Well, it's amazing. I mean, to me, first of all, it's just amazing that it happened, but it's also it's amazing that you found your way to forgiveness and healing and really just have one request of them, which is not to go to jail or anything else like that. It's just to tell you where your sister is.
Yeah. Because I know they can't take back what they did to her, but they can give her back. They have that right in front of them.
They can bring her home, right?
They can give her her location, and we can go get her. And we can all start healing.
Right.
Yeah.
Like nothing brings a person back. It's a phrase that we use, but nothing. Nothing eliminates grief, because grief is just love that has nowhere to go. And you're always going to grieve her. But this will help you heal and know what you're grieving. And that matters a lot. I'm curious, just given your experience, what message would you want to send people? I'm impressed by so much, right? Impressed by the forgiveness, impressed by the advocacy, impressed by the faith. And the fact that, I had a guest on recently whose sister went missing, who said, the one thing you can't do is give up hope. And it seems like you haven't given up hope either. And what message would you want people, just sort of in thinking about your closing thoughts, what message would you want people to have?
The message I want people to have is that Jesus is real, and his words are the same as they were from the beginning. And they will never change, and that everything done in the darkness will always come to light. But we can always change from our ways and repent, and we will be forgiven by our Lord Jesus Christ. And that my main goal is that we find Ashley, but also everybody involved, change our lives around so that one day we can all praise God together in heaven. When our time is up, we can all praise Him together. That's what I would really want, is that we are praising Jesus for eternity together.
And reunited with Ashley.
And that Ashley will be there as well.
Right.
Even the suspects will all be together.
That's powerful. Well, thanks, Kimberly. I'm going to go ahead and wrap up there. But I just want to say again how much I'm impressed by you and inspired by you and encouraged by you, and will pray for you and for your family. And thanks for being willing to be vulnerable and share your story.
Of course.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for letting us, share Ashley's story and look into our life.
She matters.
Oh.
She matters. I've never met her. And I was talking to somebody recently about a different situation. Didn't involve anybody missing, but it involved somebody being sick. And, they had asked me, why did you help me in this situation? You don't even know me. And I said, well, you haven't figured out that it's possible to love someone you've never met. And, your sister, your family has my love, my appreciation. I know she wasn't here as long, but she made a mark, it sounds like. So
she's here for a reason.
Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe that reason is for all of us.
Yeah.
To turn the ways with Jesus too.
Thanks for joining Kimberly and I for this conversation. Before I go, I want to say a couple things. You may be sitting there after listening to this conversation feeling a sense of hopelessness and wondering about whether there's a way you can do something. You may not be able to go out to Montana to search for Ashley or Leo. You might be able to. But there are all sorts of things you can do. You can promote in your state legislature or in Congress to make arguments that we address the missing and murdered Indigenous persons crisis. You can donate a $5 gas card or a $15 gas card to one of the families that's searching for their loved one. You can help support them in so many different ways. So don't think you're hopeless and don't think you can't be a part of the solution. I'd encourage you all to try and find some way that you can help out. And with that, if you'd like to join us for more conversations with me and other listeners, we can be found on most social media platforms, including a listener-run Facebook group called the Silver Linings Fireside Chat. For deeper conversations with our guests and live conversations with other listeners, and to support the podcast, you can also join us on our Patreon at www.patreon.com/The Silver Linings Handbook. We've also started a neat new publication on Substack called The True Crime Times. It's really fascinating. We started it with Brett and Alice from the Prosecutors Podcast. We've had all sorts of amazing pieces in it already. It's free to join. You can also pay, but it's free to join and come read the interesting stories. For those of you who like things in writing, feel free to drop by and check it out. I'm Jason Blair, and this is the Silver Linings Handbook Podcast. We'll see you guys all again soon.